Good evening. It is transfer deadline day. It's Thursday evening if you're catching up, and we are live on the Red Tinted Glasses YouTube channel. Calum, I feel there's going to be lots to discuss tonight, but of course we will be looking back at Tuesday night's cup victory and looking ahead to the weekend's trip to Dingwall.
Absolutely, yeah, plenty to discuss. I'm probably going to be more filtering through as we do it, and probably after as well. So, knowing our luck, it'll be bad timing.
Yeah, I know. I was hoping, well, maybe we'll see if the club do a little 1903 announcement for us as well. But if we are looking distracted, we'll be maybe looking at our phones to see what news is coming through as we've tried to keep you as up to date with what is happening on transfer deadline day, all things Aberdeen related anyway.
Conor McLennan's gone out on loan St Johnstone.
Oh, does this mean I can use my... Oh, look at this. This is how good this thing is for live events. That means I can use my breaking news. Yes. I know
Beautiful.
Ryan McKenzie loved it so much. Well, I did wonder if he would eventually go out on loan. So that's a loan deal for Conor McLennan. There we go. Talk about timing from the club. I'm very well impressed with that.
Yeah, not bad.
We will, of course, be discussing more of the transfer deadline days news later. Obviously, David Bates has joined Mechelen on a permanent deal. And there might be news around Tom Ritchie's future that might be announced during this show, maybe after. But as I said, we'll come on to that later on in the show. But good to have a lot of you with us for this live. Calum 1903, Kaiser, regular contributors to the live episodes that we do. Good to have you all with us. But Calum, I suppose it's best to start with Tuesday night. Mm-hmm. Maybe wasn't the prettiest, but ultimately, job done. I think despite my tweet to the club in frustration ahead of the 4-hour journey back up north about the level of performance, ultimately we're through to the next round, a 4-1 victory over Annan after extra time. But as much as our performance was poor, I think straight away we should be credit to Annan for the performance they put in to make it as difficult for us as possible.
100%. They were absolutely brilliant, I thought. Not only, just defensively, but also creating a few chances of their own as well. And Chris Johnson at times looking like a little mini Messi. They may cause a lot of problems for us. I don't know. I maybe got a little bit overconfident going into it and thought, it'll be fine, we'll steamroll it. Absolutely not. Annan were brilliant, and they made it difficult for us as much as we made it difficult for ourselves as well. At times, not very pretty viewing whatsoever. But credit to them, however, thankfully managed to avoid the potential banana skin to get that cliche out early and get ourselves in the hat for the next round.
Yeah, and there was 3 changes to the starting lineup. Hayden Coulson rested after his injury at the weekend. Jack McKenzie coming in his place. Johnny Hayes and Leighton Clarkson also afforded some time on the bench with Matty Kennedy and Shaden Morris deputising in their places. Chance for minutes for Matty Kennedy on his return for injury, and a chance really for Shaden Morris to maybe show the Aberdeen fans what he could do. Were you surprised to see both McKenzie and Matty Kennedy getting starts, given, it was returned to plastic pitch? And we know what they can be like for people that are coming back from injury anyway.
A little bit, yeah. I suppose I wasn't too surprised to see Coulson go out. I suppose we'd probably rather give him a chance to be rested and risk Jack McKenzie maybe on the plastic pitch. And I suppose good for him to get plenty of minutes under his belt as well. Matty Kennedy, I was a little bit surprised with, given his history just in general with injuries, but at least he got 45 minutes under his belt. I suppose that's about all we can really say on the positives for probably the first half in general, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And Mark Robertson, good to have you along with us on the live as well. And your contributions were massively appreciated, I'm sure, for those that couldn't make the game or watch it, because you're quite good at getting the goals up over on Twitter. I'm just glad you didn't catch me falling off the wall when, I can't remember who it was, shot went miles over the bar and just about cleaned me out when I was deciding to sit on the wall in the second half. But Calum, on that first half, it was quite, I don't know, laboured, is that the right word to say? A laboured performance, and obviously we rode our luck at times when Muir's header hit the post from a good ball into the box. But I felt at times during that first half in particular, we really tried to almost walk the ball into net. We were looking to score that perfect goal.
Yeah, no, I do agree. It was I don't know if laboured is the word, but a lot of the build up was very, very slow. And I know Goodwin was very keen to mention a few times, both post match and pre match, the sort of tight pitch, which I suppose would have made a difference on the surface slightly. But I would have liked to have seen us a little bit more up for it and show our class and quality a little bit earlier than we eventually did. But it was poor. And I mean, I'm glad I didn't have far to go and just staying in Ecclefechan for the night. But I really thought on this could be one of those nights, and wouldn't have fancied that long journey home on the bus afterwards. But you know, it wasn't great. The build-up play was terrible, and again, slow starts. We seem to be loving them so far this season.
Yeah, hopefully we eradicate that on Saturday coming. But to be honest, the journey back up the road wasn't too bad. It was only 4 hours. It was back in Pitmedden by 2:45, and wasn't too bad. But Shaden Morris, him and Matty Kennedy both replaced at halftime by Duke and Johnny Hayes. I think for me, I was a bit disappointed in the way he maybe took that opportunity to grasp his chance. I know there's probably a lot of rawness there, and we've probably got to remember that as well. But I think we've seen it a lot. He does a lot of good work in getting into the box, good driving runs, but it's that end product that could prove to be quite frustrating for us as fans watching him.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think we maybe expected better against slightly lesser quality opposition, but they did make it very difficult. And again, maybe an explosive player like him might benefit from a slightly bigger pitch as well. But still disappointing. Still very early days for him, though, and with a lot to learn and a lot more experience to gain, just in general, let alone in Scottish football. So, alarm bells aren't ringing as of yet. But I just think the sooner he make something happen, whether it's creating a goal or scoring one for himself, then it's better for everyone involved. He'll get that bit of confidence going, and then the fans will maybe go, that's why we brought him in.
Yeah, I suppose it's kind of like what Joe was saying about Duke, about if he didn't kind of get that early goal, early assist into his Aberdeen career, how that might affect him in the long run. Maybe Shaden will benefit maybe from some generosity like Bojan showed Vinny, which you obviously mistress as well. He scored for you on Tuesday night. And I suppose as well, you could say it's partially down to our performance, but you should also probably credit Annan for the way that they played, that Jim was almost forced into that double substitution at halftime as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, not only with their defensive work, but as I said, they hit the post and we were very, very lucky to not go 1-0 down. So it's not like they just sat in and just made it very difficult and pulled all the tricks out. They were going forward, making chances of their own. I remember highlighting their number 8 in the middle of the park, just being an absolute menace in there. But I was very impressed with that, Anna, and I thought they looked a little bit better than League 2 quality, and they are struggling a little bit in the league after topping the Premier Sports Cup group that they were in. So I think things will probably get better for them. And some of the players I thought maybe shouldn't even be playing down that down that level. So Chris Johnson specifically, but all credit has to go for them. It's not like we did make our own problems at times, but they were brilliant, I thought. And unlucky to lose 4-1 in the end, in my opinion.
Yeah, I suppose in the end, the fitness and the maybe tiredness of them caught up. And I think it was the Lincolnshire Galabanki said if only they could convert the performance that they put in on Tuesday night into the league campaign, and certainly if they can going forward, I'm sure they'll be all right and improve on their current league position. I suppose the goal that we did end up getting in the first 90 really kind of summed up our style of play. A very scrappy goal. Depending on your view on the night, you probably wouldn't have seen it cross the line or how it crossed the line. But Vinny bundled the ball home somehow or another. And you thought once we got that breakthrough, we would look kind of comfortable, but that wasn't really the case, was it?
Not at all. I remember saying to my brother, who was at the game with, sort of next 10, 15, 20 minutes, let's put this lot to bed and just end it there. And really twist the knife now that we've eventually got the breakthrough. Total opposite as to what happened, but I did not see Vinny's goal. Couldn't see a thing whenever it was within about 10 yards of the goal. Could not see what was happening. Watched the back sets. The ball didn't even hit the back of the net. Pretty fortunate to creep over the line, I think. But we did not go on to, we didn't go on to sort of twist the knife, as I said, as I would have hoped. And I really would have liked us to just go and, really turn on the style now that we've got the goal. Maybe the confidence, the little worry in the back of the head that maybe it was going to be one of those nights might have slipped away. But no, we didn't get him much better, maybe even worse after the goal.
Yeah, I put in the notes that we maybe sat back a little. I kind of thought the same, but again, I suppose we've got to credit Annan that their heads didn't really go down, because I was kind of similar thought to you that, okay, we've got that first goal, this is gonna, floodgates might open or we might go up a gear, but we never really saw that. Ryan Duncan came on. I was impressed with what I saw from Ryan. I really liked his level of directness, and I think there was also an argument. I'm not sure if it was the ABZ guys that were discussing this on Twitter or not, about a case of whether McCrory and Ramadani should be featuring in games like that, because both are quite similar, certainly in the midfield, but even at the back as well. I know when I had Phil on previewing the game, we spoke about continuing the build-up of these partnerships, but even coming out from the back, I thought Anthony Stewart, yes, he was finding his man with the passes, but it was so lethargic. And Jack McKenzie as well. I know he was coming in for a bit of criticism on social media about driving the ball forward. And I think, it was certainly a discussion on the bus on the way down about going forward. Is Jack McKenzie's future at left back or more in the centre, maybe as cover? Because you really noticed a difference on that left side when Hayden Coulson wasn't playing. We didn't have that direct driving run that we've been getting this season with Hayden.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know with Jack McKenzie, because definitely going forward in the way that we're wanting to be playing, I don't think he's quite at it. And I mean, we saw that last season when you had Ramsey on one side, him on the other. There was definitely an imbalance there. And then when he comes in, you've got Richardson, but virtually plays a right midfielder at times on that side. But then at the same time, I don't know if he's got the right build for a centre back either. So it's a bit of a tough one. He would always be perfect as a left sort of centre back in a 3, but obviously we don't play that. So it is frustrating. I think he just has to keep working at going forward. Sometimes it works quite well with him and Hayes down the left hand side. Occasionally, I do notice that often he does find Hayes out wide. But yeah, it is tough. And certainly coming out from the back, I'm definitely not convinced by Anthony Stewart at all. And as you say, at times very lethargic. And you said often finding his man. Sometimes not, and sometimes giving it away. But there's still definitely work to be done. And I think it was the ABZ guys that did mention the Ramadani McCrory thing, which I do tend to agree with in that sort of game. But then at the same time, which one do you take out? I'm not really sure.
I think right now as well, who do you put in?
Yeah,
in that place as a more sitting midfielder?
Because you are sort of. We also are lacking sort of like a creative 10, if you will, which is a bit of a problem. I don't know. But then at the same time, if you put Leighton Clarkson in there against League 2 big physical players, certainly number 8, I don't know how he'd have fared. Obviously, his technical qualities would have, probably seen him through the game, but you don't want him to throw him in there when he's, half a foot smaller than everyone else, just getting battered in the middle of the park.
Yeah, I suppose that's something that we'll come on to a bit later on in the show when we look at the transfers, because we're going to look at kind of the squad depth and strength or lack of in certain areas. But Jonathan Main, good to have you along as well, saying, I'm not going to pretend he's confident we're back. Well, maybe listening to Calum a bit longer, he'll get that optimism flowing in you. But didn't ever feel we'd lose the game deep down. I'm sure at full time on Tuesday. I'm not sure if I believe you on that, Jonathan. But that's the difference over last season. I suppose that last point, the difference over last season, is probably quite true, because there does seem to be a bit more resilience about this squad compared to last season. I think it was brought up in our last live about, or certainly in the comments afterwards on YouTube, that in that opening half hour against Livingston, probably last season we would have conceded, whereas this season we managed to stay firm and go on to keep a clean sheet. But unfortunately, we didn't manage to keep a clean sheet. And as Kaiser's saying, defending corners is becoming a real problem for us. we didn't learn our lesson from the corner 5 minute previous when Muir, who must have wondered how he didn't go on score against Aberdeen on Tuesday night, couldn't direct a header either side of Kellerose. But 5 minutes later, a good corner swung in, and it was Stephen Swinglehurst that rose highest. A really good leaping header. Rose probably caught a bit in no man's land, but to be honest, it was really nothing less than Annan deserved for a large periods of what they played.
Definitely, and definitely the way they used set pieces and throw-ins, they knew exactly what they're doing, clearly worked on it, and used it to effect. But I remember, I've not actually had the chance to see that goal back, but at the time I thought, oh, that's another ball flying across in an area that Kellery should maybe be commanding, and we were punished. I think at times Kellery did look a bit better collecting crosses and free kicks, to be fair, but in that particular case, no. But as you say, it was nothing less than Annan deserved, to be fair. I don't think, we can begrudge them taking it to extra time at all, really, over the course of the 90 minutes.
Yeah, despite how raging I was at full time. But
True.
that was the bonus of Mark filming the goals, because it meant for the ones I couldn't see or wanting to see them back, I could get a better judgment of them within minutes of them finding the back of the net. But I suppose it really was a bit more fitness really came into it in that extra time. Leighton Clarkson obviously came on, you said about maybe being overpowered if he started the game, but his technical ability really shone through in that second half. Brilliant delivery for Duke to get that goal, which really for me settled any nerves I had in extra time. Although Annan didn't go down without a fight, despite that. The real moment of quality again from Vinny finding the bottom corner for me, which that goal really did kill off any fears of a comeback. Although I did think it was Duke that scored it, just the way he had his hand up in the air. I thought he kind of just stuck his foot out and diverted it into the bottom corner. So that's why I thought it was him. But I suppose a really professional performance in extra time, despite the maybe nervy moments.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, when it goes to extra time, you fully expect us to probably get the job done, given most of them have probably worked a shift earlier in the day as well. But
there's a guy next to me kept reminding the players in the first half.
Yeah, I saw next to me as well. But the goal, I was impressed with the quality of the goals in extra time, to be fair. I'm delighted for Duke to grab another goal. And he seemed to really, really, really enjoy it as well. So good for him. I wished it kind of was maybe at the other end. I'm sure he would have fed off the fans quite a bit as well. And Vinny as well. Hopefully we can start to see him, add more goals and things to his game. So I'd like for him to grab another double. And then when we went on to get the fourth as well, you mentioned how impressed we were with Ryan Duncan. I thought he was absolutely brilliant and gave their fullback a torrid time. And I think maybe sort of starting to force his way into proper contention, not just appearances off the bench. Not only with the style of play and things, but physically as well. For being so young, he's really sort of filled out and wouldn't look out of place at all. So impressive. And Leighton Clarkson's finish too, very, very good. Did well to take it down from the pass from Ryan Duncan. I couldn't see it go in at all. I saw him get the shot off and I thought that's definitely going wide. Then everyone started celebrating. So thankfully I've seen that one back and he took it very well. But again, just showing the technique that Leighton Clarkson has. Very, very impressive once again.
Yeah, agreed. A good finish for him. Not a thunder bastard from distance for a change, but a really cool and calm, composed finish. And I suppose at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how we got through. Yes, the performance probably wasn't good enough. Well, there's no probably about it, but we're in the hat, and it was waiting till last night to see who we got. And when Partick Thistle, Celtic, and Motherwell were the three teams left, there was certainly a fear of who we were going to get. And I was definitely not wanting Motherwell because it just seemed to be a bogey team, and Celtic just because of how they're playing so far this season. So to get a home tie against Partick Thistle, I think, Calum, we've got to be absolutely made up of that. The second lowest ranked team left in the competition and a home tie as well.
Yeah, definitely. Just about as good as you're going to get. A good chance to get through to Hampden, but I'm sure Partick Thistle will definitely up for it, looking for an upset coming north as well. After they spent a few seasons out of the top league, they'll be looking to sort of make a mark as they're sort of trying to work their way back up as well. It won't be easy at all, but if you were going to handpick one of the ties, it's probably one of them you're going to do, especially at home as well. So should be okay, but again, potential banana skin. I'm not going to get too ahead of myself, or try not to anyway.
Yeah, but as Kaiser said earlier on at the start in the comments, what a chance we've now got of a semi-final. I'm sure Jim Goodwin and the players won't be looking too far ahead, but there's no real surprise that the fans are certainly beginning to look ahead when you see the draw open up like that. And I think for once in a cup competition, certainly for a long time, the draw's been very favourable to us this season.
Yeah, very much. I like it usually. But yeah, we'll absolutely take it. I mean, Annan in the last round, probably one of the most preferable draws you could get. And again, I mean, to be fair, a home tie, I would have taken anything at home, I suppose, probably. Even Celtic or Rangers, you would have maybe thought, well, at least it's a home, we've got a chance. But Partick Thistle, it's a good chance to get to a semi-final. I think that would be a good start, and but got to take it one game at a time, as they always say.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose one game at a time is what Jim Goodwin and his players will be thinking, and it's Dingwall next. A team we failed to beat last season, Calum. A perfect opportunity to kind of right the wrongs from last season against that level of opposition, and really kind of put us in a good place ahead of that Rangers game in a week's time.
Yeah, absolutely. We were confident about August, shall we say? It didn't quite go to plan, but we've got a good chance of building up a bit of confidence now. Players seem to be playing well. There seems to be a real sort of unity amongst most of them, not all, as I've just seen Christian Ramirez, tweeting. I
Yeah.
searched it up after that. He first of all tweeted congratulations to David Bates, and now make it make sense, please. There are two sides to every story. That's all for now. Very, very vague. As they are, it's interesting, and we'll probably come on to a little bit more about Christian Ramirez later on. But certainly cooking up a storm.
Yeah, 4.5 hours of the transfer window to go, and he's tweeting like a teenage girl on Twitter. So it'll be interesting to see what comes of that. But we'll discuss that a little bit more. And I suppose obviously after him not being included in the squad on Tuesday night, it'll be interesting to see if there is any inclusion of him in the squad come Saturday if he does remain at Aberdeen. As I said, we're making the trip to Dingwall. Hatchet men Ross Callaghan and Jack Baldwin are back available for the Staggies after their 2-game ban. I'm sure both fit and raring to go after their stint on the sideline. I think it's safe to say this is going to be a very physical encounter up north.
Absolutely, and this is the sort of games where you're probably thankful for Ramadani and McCrory both being available in the middle of the park. It'll be interesting to see how we sort of react to a physical opposition like that, if they're going to carry on the way they did. Which was 2 mental challenges. Can't believe they didn't see red for in the first place. But it'll be a battle. We have to make sure we stick to the game plan, as well as making sure we're not a soft touch, which we were a lot of the time last season. It'll be interesting to see how they deal with things this time round.
Yeah, and I didn't actually realise until this afternoon when I was doing kind of the research for this was County's record against us recently. They're unbeaten in their last 4 games against us, albeit though we do actually have quite a good record up in Dingwall, winning the last 4 of the last 6 games. Albeit the only defeat up there in that period was the 4-1 defeat under Derek McInnes, which I think is our 3rd most viewed episode on YouTube. Purely, I don't know whose meltdown was worse after that game.
Oh, I don't know, but let's hope there's not going to be another one after this one.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a different an indifferent start for Ross County this season. They're the only side to score domestically against Celtic, but just the 1 win in the league for them this season. Playing a lot of nice football, but not getting results. Wonder where I've heard that one before, Calum.
Yeah, I know they have played pretty well lately, and some impressive individual performances as well, but not been able to convert it to too many points, which they will obviously be looking to change. And I think they might see it as a decent opportunity still with our sort of fragilities at times and slow starts as well and away from home. Everyone's aware of how bad we've been away from home sort of in recent times. It'll be an interesting one, and they'll definitely be up for it with a lot of new additions as well over the summer too. I'm quite excited. I'm looking forward to it.
You're just looking forward to the Mallard. That's what you're looking forward to.
Yeah, okay, you comment.
Yeah. One of those new additions that has looked very lively, certainly from what I've seen of Ross County this season, is Awura Edwards, who's currently on loan from Bristol City. Got one league goal this season, but very much a live wire for them. It was the winner against Kilmarnock he got in that home game against 10 men. But I suppose he's looking to link up with the likes of Jordi Huula and Jordan White as well, but both them as strikers are struggling for goals this season. Just the 3 league goals for Ross County this season, 2 of them coming at home, both from set pieces. Yes, I'm including the goal against Kilmarnock as a set piece, despite it being the goalkeeper taking a free kick just inside the halfway line.
Fair.
Not really. I suppose maybe something we need to think about this weekend, given how poor we've been at defending corners. I was going to say set pieces, but let's be honest, it's been corners.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, look at Annan as the closest example. Team in League Two, they're still exposing us. No disrespect intended towards Annan Athletic there, but they'll certainly be looking to exploit that. I mean, that was one of the frailties I was sort of referring to. Our defending or lack of defending of set pieces, and they've got a lot of big physical lads as well as players capable of making things happen, like Awura Edwards, who. I think he was unlucky to score against. I think it was Hearts in the opening day as well. I think hit the bar. So it'll be no easy task. And in strikers and Scotland, strikers often goal scoring isn't necessarily the main priority. Being big handfuls and shit houses often up there, and certainly they've got a couple capable of that.
Yeah, I suppose they're struggling for goals this season, but they're also struggling to keep a clean sheet. It's just been the one so far this season. That's obviously something, certainly in the last couple of league games, at home, scoring goals hasn't been a problem for Aberdeen. Hopefully we can convert that on the road as well. You'd like to think with the likes of Bojan, Vinny, hopefully chance to continue his fine form, we can look to exploit that Ross County defence that has struggled this season.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously they'll likewise be trying to do the same with us, but Bojan can score goals against any team in this league from basically what I've seen so far. And I'm trying not to get carried away, but
expert opinion.
Yeah, exactly. Expert. Thank you, Glen. Finally getting the recognition I deserve. He looks a class act, and I'm just trying to enjoy him for however long we have him. But we do have players capable of playing. We do have options as well for once, which is very odd if things aren't happening for us. Off bench, and that's with a few knocks and niggles as well. So, I'd like to think we will have enough about us, to get through and get 3 points. But we will have to be sturdy defensively. We can't afford another slow start at all, because knowing our luck, it will be Ross County will finally kick into goal scoring form after we hand them an opportunity. So we need to be right at it and get right at them.
Yeah, I suppose, will there be any concerns from your point of view, the fact that we went to extra time on Tuesday? I know Ross County then played on the Wednesday, so there's that little bit of difference. They've got one less day of rest. We've had the long trip, extra time. Any concerns for you around that?
I think had they played on the same night, then probably, but because they've played 24 hours later, it's probably just about balances out, so it should be okay. And they're professional athletes. They should be well match fit by now. There's a little bit of rotation in the team as well. They should be able to handle 2 games in a week, no problem.
Yeah, classic football fan answer to
Sounded
that.
Like an old dad there.
Yeah, exactly. And I was going to say, on the point of rotation as well, that was a concern on Tuesday night when we were heading to extra time and Bojan was sitting on the bench after having been subbed off. I was like, just as well, Vinny's already practiced his penalties if it gets that far. I suppose, as you said, there was a bit of rotation on Tuesday night from our point of view. Do you see Hayden, Johnny Hayes, and Leighton Clarkson all returning to the starting lineup on Saturday?
Yeah, I think I'd like to see all three in. Absolutely. I mean, Leighton Clarkson's got technical ability probably above everyone else. Well, not only in our team but probably on the pitch on Saturday to make things happen. We look a lot more balanced, and Hayden Coulson's probably a lot better going forward. Pretty similar defensively from what I've seen so far of Jack McKenzie, pretty capable. And Johnny Hayes, one of our best players so far this season, if not the best. And add another assist against Livingston just to make me feel a bit better myself about the prediction, despite the fact I missed it. So I'd like to see all three back in from the start. I think that's probably our strongest 11 right now with all the players fit.
Yeah, I'm just not sure what Leighton's best position is. Because that game against Livingston, he was. I don't know if people in the comments might think different, but I thought he was being more played on the wing, and I don't really feel that suited him. And I think against Ross County, I'm also not sure how that suits him playing out, if it's going to be that kind of physical encounter. So will Matty Kennedy maybe retain his place? Is there maybe some shouts for Ryan Duncan to get a start? Probably not. But yeah, I agree. I think if Leighton does start, you could argue that is definitely up there with our strongest starting 11.
And what about Duke?
Well,
After this
yeah,
goal?
exactly. That is a good point John McDonald makes. Do you think Duke's played his way into a start? He certainly is going the right way about it. The impact performance he had against Livingston and similar on Tuesday at Annan, you could argue he has, yes. I still think we're seeing the best of him as an impact sub against these tiring defences, just using his brute strength and sheer pace to just disrupt defences. So I don't know how effective you'll be. I suppose the only way of seeing that is by handing him the start. But yeah, John's right. There's definitely a case there, but I don't think we'll see him start this weekend. Do you?
I don't know. I mean, I think he's certainly going to be knocking at the door, figuratively, because his performances are probably enough to merit a chance. But at the same time, yeah, I do agree that his impact off the bench, being able to basically squat and hold off players despite not being the tallest player in the park, but he's an absolute unit, and his pace and just sometimes a bit of a maverick in the way he plays on the ball as well. So, it is tough. And at the same time, if he starts, presumably along with Bojan, you can't really drop Bojan in the form he's been in.
Yeah.
Then, plan B is a bit up in the air right now, given the whole Ramirez situation and the fact Marley Watkins isn't getting off the bench either.
Yeah, and I think that was also picked up in the comments as well. Yeah, Stuart Meston here saying, thought Marley Watkins would have come on at 1-1, obviously referring to the Annan game, but it just shows how far down the pecking order he is. And I suppose the fact that he never even featured at all on Tuesday night further highlights how far down the pecking order he is in terms of him featuring this season. And yeah, he's just really just been a bench warmer so far for us. But I suppose up front, it's good to have these options. It's good for us to have a consideration. But certainly, judging by how Jim Goodwin's lined us up this season, I don't think his immediate intention is to change to a 4-4-2, because I think that's what we would have to go to really get the best out of Duke, is for him to go up alongside Majowski. And then that's obviously dropping Vinny a bit deeper than the role he's currently playing. But you never know. It's a good option to have, but I think just now it was all saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So I think we'll just stick as is. But I suppose it kind of takes us on nicely to looking at the transfer, obviously with it being deadline today, and looking at the strength and depth of the squad. But I suppose, Calum, we should really start with the American number 999, whatever number he is, maybe 999, judging by his antics today. It came about this morning that there was a rumour that Hearts had made an inquiry for Christian Ramirez to take him to Gorgie. Now, whether that was going to be a loan signing or permanent signing remains to be seen. who knows what's going to happen over the course of the next few hours. But as we said, I don't know if you have it in front of you. Obviously, he's been a bit active on Twitter tonight. A little cryptic tweet as well. What do you make of, first of all, the rumoured interest from Hearts, but also the way he is now acting this evening on social media?
It's interesting. I'll just reiterate the latest tweet again for maybe anyone that's missed it. Christian Ramirez tweeted at about 20 minutes ago. Make it make sense, please. There are two sides to every story. Thumbs up emoji. That's all for now. Very, very cryptic. I mean, I don't know. He is behaving a bit childish, and the fact he's tweeting something like that probably suggests that he's not currently having a medical at Tynecastle, let's be honest. It's an odd one. I think as a player, he's still got a lot to give, but as an option, he does score goals given the chance. Maybe doesn't offer so much when he's not scoring those goals, as we saw last season. But at the same time, Goodwin, if he doesn't like a player or if he thinks the attitude's not right, very unlikely he's going to get a second chance. I just think maybe that tweet, I don't know what it's alluding to, but it's certainly there's been a lot of twists in the story of Christian Ramirez lately. Sort of spitting the dummy out when Glass left, looking disinterested, and then being allowed to go back because he was apparently fatigued, going back to America for a longer holiday. And now all this, the number 99 faff, it's a very, very bizarre one. I don't know if we will see him leave. Maybe come January because the American season starts sort of sometime after then. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's bizarre. I hope he doesn't go on loan to Hearts. I don't think he will. I just think strengthening a rival, though he can't play against us in terms of aiming for third. Pretty stupid if he can go on and get service and score the goals, and if he does apply his attitude. But he might be able to get Deliveroo in Gorgie, so who knows.
And as Kaiser says, unless there is another striker lined up, there was, of course, rumours this afternoon that we were linked with Louis Moult, because, of course, a transfer window wouldn't be Aberdeen without a rumour to Louis Moult. I'm surprised Alan Gow didn't get a mention in there as well. I think, that what Kaiser's saying is right. Unless we do have another striker lined up, we really are best keeping him. Happy or not happy. I think there was rumours that he was training with the under-18s the back end of last week as well. So he's not even in and around the first team squad. So it kind of just shows either there's been a bit of a falling out. I think both Jim Goodwin and Christian Ramirez have big egos. And maybe it's just a case of those two egos don't see eye to eye. But certainly if he was to leave, I think the club will obviously be looking to have somebody in there. I think we would be stupid to let him go without having somebody lined up to replace him.
I would agree. And he's also tweeted his congratulations to David Bates on his move and posted it on his Instagram story as well, along with a photo of the pair of them. I mean, if he was wanting to, just get his chance or whatever, and that's upsetting, he is not helping in any way, shape, or form. And it's really unprofessional and pretty petty and pretty childish. So it'll be interesting to see if Ramirez will ever, work his way back after this, because I have pretty big doubts.
Yeah, and I suppose he's not, well, as I said, I suppose he said there's two sides to every story. So I guess we'll never know the truth until he speaks out from his point of view. But as John McDonald says, it's quite disruptive. It's not really great for a team and you guys trying to get to know each other. And I suppose it does deflect from the stuff that's going on the pitch. It's 3 wins in a row, looking to make it 4, sitting fourth in the league in a cup quarter final as well. We don't really need these sort of distractions off the field.
No, I would agree. I mean, it is disruptive. Basically, that's the only way to describe it. You can understand being upset at not playing. You were the man last season, a new striker comes in, get your number, whatever. I presume there's been more that's going on behind closed doors about that. And if players don't see eye to eye, whatever, still be a good teammate for the rest of your team, because we're talking about the unity of the rest of the team. Look how they are reacting right now to each other. and celebrating their wins together. Every time one of the players posts a photo from the weekend, there's like 10 other players in the comments down below commenting, which it's trivial, whatever, but it's good to see for us because that's all we've got to go off. We're not in the dressing room, so it looks like they're together. And even some players that aren't involved. Joe Lewis was commenting below one of them, and Dante Polvara's often in the comments. Christian Ramirez is sulking, it would seem.
Yeah. This is a really good point No Blaha makes. Good to have the American contingent of the Dandies joining us on tonight's live. Goodwin better know what he's doing, because if Majowski goes down, touch wood, he doesn't. It's Ramirez and Watkins. I suppose you could also throw Duke in there as well, that we're depending on. Nobody could expect either of them to pick off where they're left off. And you're sitting there with a player that sounds unhappy in Christian Ramirez, a player who's not getting a look in and has a history of injuries himself in Marley Watkins, and Duke, who we've not yet seen start a game. It's a bit of a risky strategy here, the way we're going with our front line. And again, that's the four we've got in terms of strikers. And I suppose I've got on my other screen just now the post that Discuss Dandies on Twitter put up about our strength and depth in the forward area. He doesn't actually have Ramirez listed in his strikers, but he has Liam Harvey listed as well. So it does show we are a bit limited if there was to be a problem around Bojan between now and January.
Well, yeah, definitely. I mean, not only Marley Watkins' fitness issues, but he's never looked at his best when playing as an actual number 9. He's always best off them and playing off a striker. And then, yeah, Duke not started a game, still a little bit of an unknown quantity, despite seeing what he's capable in flashes. Liam Harvey, very, very young. To throw him in would be a big ask, really, of him. Although he is, highly thought of, clearly not quite ready yet to play first team football. It's an interesting one. I do wonder if perhaps we had been able to get Tobias Lauritsen in, along with maybe others, then maybe would have seen Ramirez leave. But I don't know if that was maybe where Duke came in if we didn't get Lauritsen. But it's been a scandal, I think is the word I'm going to use to describe it.
Yeah, the problem is as well, if you're wanting to offload a striker that's on the wage that Ramirez is and has still got a year contract, you need to get offers in. Unfortunately, you're not going to have people buying a striker when they can't see what he's doing. I know obviously he scored the amount of goals he did last season, went off the boil a bit towards the end of the season, but this current situation doesn't exactly enamor him to potential suitors. And if it is going to be a move to the MLS, unfortunately, the MLS transfer window currently isn't open, and ours obviously closes soon. So it's just an awkward predicament now the club find themselves in. It's just a really not a good look, but it's just getting dragged out on social media as well, which I'm sure both the player and club equally are not fans of.
Yeah, I know. I mean, for him, probably the best thing is, whether he thinks he's going to get a look in or not, is to get his head down and try and force his way in somehow, no matter what, whether the chance comes through injury, suspension, or his performance. If his performance at a certain level in training, even if he's not getting a chance on the park, and we do need to rely on him, and then he delivers, whether he wants to be here or not, then that gives him a good platform for offers elsewhere, puts him in that shop window. Whereas right now, he's just complaining on Twitter and other social media platforms, and it's not a good look for anyone, essentially.
Well, Gooby's actually messaged me to say that he's now deleted said tweet from half an hour ago. So this is classic Ramirez, puts up a post and then deletes. But long live screenshotting and social media, and that stays. Stays there. Away from Christian Ramirez, well, the banner that I did have made up was, is Connor McLennan going out on loan? Because there was certainly talk at the beginning of the week that he'd turned down opportunities to join teams on loan already this season, one being a Premiership side. But he has now joined a Premiership side in St Johnstone. A good opportunity for Connor to really go out and get first team minutes under his belt and show Jim Goodwin what he can offer. I think Connor was keen to stay and prove that he could fight for a first team place here at Aberdeen. Yes, Calum, no laughing. But, look at what Bruce Anderson did when he left the club over to Livingston. Could Connor make the most of his opportunity now at St Johnstone with the opportunity at first team minutes in regular football? Because obviously that's not what he's going to get here at Aberdeen.
Yeah, I mean, I was laughing there. It's nothing against Connor. He's not done anything like horrendous at all. It's just he's so out of the picture. It's unbelievable. He's not even making the bench either at all. So it's best for him to go out and get a loan. I mean, Peter Pollock went on loan to St Johnstone, came back. Look what he became. I'm not saying that'll happen again, but that's what happens when you go out and you can go and get first team football. I think it's unlikely he'll get another contract here at all. But if he can go and prove himself to be a Premiership caliber player at St Johnstone, I mean, it's the best thing for him. It's no use being here if he's not going to get a look in with like 6 other wingers basically ahead of him in the pecking order. I think it's a good move. It's a good level for him. You'll get a chance to go and show what he can do. And as I said, probably earn a contract elsewhere.
Yeah, I think it's the right move for him in terms of going to a Premiership team. I think there was a few people mentioning Cove Rangers and were interested. I don't think for Connor personally, a move down to the Championship would have suited him. But getting a same level Premiership club and a chance to compete at the highest level in Scotland is good for him. On a personal level, whether or not it's enough to stay at Aberdeen going forward will of course remain to be seen. There was also some news tonight as well concerning Tom Ritchie's loan at Queen of the South. Talk of that being cancelled and him moving to Peterhead on loan. That was a deal that was rumoured in the summer before Peterhead signed Jack Newman ahead of course, the opening Premier Sports game against ourselves, because if they had signed Tom Ritchie, they still wouldn't have been able to have a goalkeeper for that fixture. So rumours circling tonight that Tom Ritchie will be heading back up north. I don't think he's actually been getting much minutes at Queen's. I know he was on the bench at the weekend and also in midweek at Ibrox when Queen of the South played there. So I think, again, a good move for Tom in search of first team minutes as he looks to make an impression for Jim Goodwin for the future as well.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. He needs to be playing at the age he is for his development. I don't know if he's going to play even at Peterhead, I suppose, with Newman still there, I think.
No, Newman's gone back to Dundee United. That's why this rumour's come about.
Because they have 2 goalkeepers with no hands. That makes sense.
Because their goalkeeper's also liking Celtic posts on Instagram after losing 9-0. So,
Exactly. And then the backup one's not much better since he got thrown in. So, okay. Well, in that case, sorry for not being informed, first of all. But I think it's a good move for him. If he goes and plays there, his first choice, then fantastic. He's at a young age, good age for his development to be playing regular first team football, regardless of the level. And it's still a good level at that age. So I think that'd be a good move should it come off, should it materialise. I've got BBC loaded, and apparently Hearts have now signed a Wigan striker on loan, Stephen Humphreys, and apparently that will likely be at Tynecastle this evening. So Ramirez not heading down to Gorgie, unlucky for wanting to Deliveroo.
Yeah, not getting a trip to the capital. Well, he might in a few weeks' time when we play Hibs, who knows. Shane Fraser, good to have you along. Another one of the American dandies that tune into the podcast there. Hope the whiskey is settled in well after you finished early. Good to have you along. So, Calum, that's really the transfer rumours that we've seen so far. With David Bates now being confirmed as leaving the club to Mechelen, do you think or hope maybe, because I certainly do, that we get one defender in before the close of the window tonight?
Michael Hector! Yeah. It's never going to happen, but I would love it so much.
Free agent.
Exactly. Can play centre-back and right-back. Exactly what we need. Definitely not going to happen given, what he's gone on to do, playing at a very decent level, playing international football. However, I would love it if we signed Michael Hector.
Okay, Kevin Keegan.
I would like a defender and some description because, I think at left back we're probably okay. But centre back, the third option is Ross McCrory after, well, I suppose second option because you've got Scales and Stewart starting. Then it's Ross McCrory and Jack Milne. That's the other ones. And then at right back, there's Jaden Richardson. That's it. So we do need some sort of cover, I feel, because we're, one injury or one game against Celtic away from having to change everything again. And we saw how that turned out. So I'd like to think we would be in the market for that, but whether that'll happen after the deadline, maybe if it's a free agent, I don't know. But we'll see. If I had to pick one position for us to sign someone, it would be that.
Yeah, so I would totally agree with that. So again, looking at the post that Discuss Dandies put up on Twitter tonight, as I said, this is where we're getting the information on squad depth. So he's got a left back options as Hayden Coulson, Jack McKenzie, and Johnny Hayes. Left centre back Liam Scales, Jack Milne. Right centre back Anthony Stewart, Ross McCrory, and right back Jaden Richardson and Ross McCrory. So again, just shows certainly on the right hand side of defence, our cover is Ross McCrory basically. So I do really feel, I think someone put on Twitter earlier that was a versatile defender. I think they replied to our tweet over on Twitter at RTG_podcast if you don't follow us over there. But as Kaiser says, another centre half is a necessity, and probably reading the strength and depth that we've currently got there across the back four, I don't think he's much far wrong. We do really need that extra cover because Bates was never in the picture. And again, when Noel was speaking about Bojan going out injury, if we pick up an injury or a bad suspension, bad injury across that back four, we are a bit thin on the ground.
Yeah, that's the whole thing knackered, essentially, if that happens. It's probably a bit of a concern that's not happened as of yet. I think it's been a glaringly obvious problem since basically the start of the Premier Sports Cup group stages. So I would like to think it would get addressed, and maybe now with Bates going out, there is the budget for that as well. To bring in someone like that, be on loan towards the end of the deadline or free agent, I don't know. Ideally, someone that can play centre back and right back, even though that's never ideal because I never usually trust that too much. But if we do have enough, we've got enough money to bring in one person, ideally it'd be someone like that. Where's Paul Quinn when you need him? That's all I'll say.
Is he not up north somewhere? Again, kind of goes back to the point Mark Robertson here again saying that if McCrory goes down, the whole team falls apart. And I think we've already seen that this season, that when Ross McCrory has and neither does our Wi-Fi apparently. This shows the joys of doing a live. Apologies for that. So yeah, if McCrory does move, our midfield is disrupted. Our whole team's disrupted. Calum, looking at midfield, what Discuss Dandies has put. So he's gone with a 4-1-2-3 sort of formation. So he's got, in terms of sitting midfielders, he's got Ramadani, McCrory, and Jack Milne as an option in there. And in terms of our kind of main two midfielders, he's got Connor Barron, Dante Polvara, Johnny Hayes, and then McCrory and Leighton Clarkson. I mean, I don't know how many times I'm reading Ross McCrory's name out, but just again, going back to that point that Mark makes about if McCrory goes down, the whole team falls apart. He's covering about 5 positions in this team that Discuss Dandies puts out.
And Hayes is covering the other 3. Basically,
I
think in centre mid we're okay once Barron comes back. I mean, right now I suppose we still got right now we're okay. We still got Polvara as that backup off the bench, and as I say, Milne can also play in that sort of sitting midfield spot if needed. So I think we're okay there. And Johnny Hayes can just play anywhere essentially on the park. But
I think my only concern about the midfield right now is how long Connor Barron is actually going to be out. And obviously again it's with that cruciate knee, it's a bit ligament-y, as it, Jim Goodwin said it was only going to be a couple of weeks, and then it's a couple more weeks. You don't want to rush that sort of injury back. And I think again it was mentioned in the comments that Dante's not been seen since the Celtic game either, which I'm sure is doing his confidence a world of good. Or maybe
he came on against St Johnstone, didn't he?
Yeah, minutes like at the very end. But yeah, nothing serious in that sense. But so maybe again a little bit thin in midfield, but I still feel between now and midnight tonight, of obviously time of recording, depending when you're listening back to this or watching, of course. I do really feel we do need that defensive cover as priority, but a midfielder in there wouldn't go amiss either.
Perhaps not, but I suppose if you sign a defender, then it means less need to move McCrory elsewhere.
True,
So then
true.
if something happens to him, then you still got Barron when fit, or Polvara, and Milne, I suppose, as well.
Yeah, that's a good point there. Yeah, and Emma coming up there again. The list is giving an absolute fear for a McCrory injury. I like how everyone always assumes about injuries and forgets suspensions can be thrown in there as well. If we look at the front three that he's gone with here, you've got on the left-hand side Johnny Hayes, Calum Roberts, who people have probably forgotten about already, given his hamstring injury and is currently out, I think, for 4 more weeks. And he's put Shaden Morris on the left-hand side. You've then got on the right-hand side Bazowin, Kennedy, Duncan. I suppose Shaden, Vinny, and Kennedy all come under the option of being able to flip for both sides.
Yeah.
I think we are okay on the wing just now.
Absolutely. I mean, I thought that before Shaden Morris was signed. I thought we were okay. And then we added him. Obviously, the injury with to Roberts causing a bit more of a problem. But I think we're okay. And especially with Ryan Duncan seemingly coming on leaps and bounds so far. Probably only going to get better with a bit more game time. I think we're okay out wide as well.
Yeah. And then, as we've discussed up top, we've got Bojan, Duke, Watkins, Ramirez, and Liam Harvey. I mean, you've got plenty of option. There's none of them outside Bojan and Duke getting minutes just now.
Yeah, I mean, I think in a long time we will be okay up there. I think it's a concern Ramirez's attitude right now, Watkins' fitness, and Harvey's inexperience. But between the three of them and their problems, as well as Bojan and Duke, we've maybe got about 3 strikers there, so we'll be all right.
Yeah, so Jim Goodwin did say, he was happy with the strength and depth of his squad. Would you agree with that? Are you happy with our strength and depth?
Other than the defence, yes, but the defence is a glaringly obvious, massive problem.
But it's easy to fix, Jim, remember. So I'm sure he has got options lined up. I would like to think letting David Bates go at this late stage in the window, we would have something else lined up. And we aren't just relying on Ross McCrory to drop into our defence when needed, or rely on Jack Milne if Ross McCrory cannot provide that cover. It does seem a little bit hit and hope between now and January. But I also suppose that the issue maybe some people have around deadline day, Calum, is that at this late stage, teams can start holding others to ransom, knowing that the likes of Aberdeen might be in need of a right-sided defender. If we go in bidding for a player at this late stage, we could end up paying over the odds for something we don't want to.
Absolutely, they can do that, and often you do see teams absolutely spunking money. But I have a feeling that if we do bring someone else in at this stage now, it would probably be as a loan, because the money we've spent largely has been abroad. Getting a player in from abroad now would be just impossible, given how long these things take these days. So I have a feeling it would be a loan, or perhaps there's still free agents available to sign after the end of the deadline. So it'll be that, hopefully, and we won't get absolutely fleeced for some of our money we've earned over the summer.
Yeah, hopefully not. And, I think that's, I suppose, the other thing as well. Clubs might know how much money we've made, this summer as well, and try and put that figure up. But as I said, we're coming up to what's that 8:00 on Thursday evening, 4 hours until the window proverbially slams shut in Scotland. Overall, Calum, how would you assess the transfer window for Aberdeen so far this summer?
Do you mean a rating out of 10, or just a bit of a summary?
I mean, if you want to give it as a 10, feel free. If you want to give a summary, I'm sure the people would love to hear your summarization.
do a little bit both.
Go on then.
I think currently we're sitting at an 8 out of 10 window. I'm pretty happy with the business we've done. A very large turnover of players, of course, but the players we've signed so far look to be of good quality, some better than others, some I'm a little bit still needing convinced on. But for the most part, depth is there. I think to improve on what we've done so far, it would require some defensive cover, perhaps. I would have maybe liked that man Connor Ronan, which we spoke about for ages over the summer, and it's not happened. I don't know whether come January, if he's not getting football, then that might then happen. But I think the quality of certain players as well bump it up as well. Bojan Miovski in particular, Duke looks a real handful. Kelarus, I mean, if you'd asked me when we signed him if I thought he'd be worse by now, then I would have said yes, but he certainly looks more comfortable than I thought. Stewart wins a lot of headers in the air, can't play football, but that's okay. That's all we need him for. Scales is certainly looking very impressive, and Coulson too, despite the injuries. So I think we are in a good spot. Certainly a lot better than we were in May earlier in the year.
Yeah, no, that's a good assessment. I think certainly what we've signed up top is incredible for the value for money. I seen someone put up a tweet earlier that's saying that Cole Stockton, who failed at Hearts Morecambe, wants £600,000 for him, and we got Bojan Miovski for 535,000. And also speaking of strikers, look at Sam Cosgrove joining Plymouth on loan for the rest of the season. Just think how good a bit of business we did selling Sam for £2 million. I kind of agree with the summary that you put up, but on Connor Ronan, I just have a real fear that we've been all our eggs in one basket, in the Connor Ronan basket, and I think Jim Goodwin might have been holding out hope that he was going to come this summer, and I'm just hoping that we haven't then let option B go by, and we're sitting here at the last minute. I think Jim Goodwin did mention in his press conference today that he is waiting on decisions from other clubs to see if players come, or there's been circumstances elsewhere that's meant the players that we were going after aren't now coming, and we aren't just going to sign anybody for the sake of it, which I do think is wise. But one comment from Mark Robertson whilst you were doing your summary that I really like the sound of. He says Michael Hector probably is a pipe dream, but having him at right back, even, and I think this is the good part I like, if it's till the winter window, so just sign him until January, give him something to get in, give him some opportunity to put himself in the shop window, but also help teach Richardson, teach him the defensive aspect of the game, because let's be honest, how many times am I mentioning that on this podcast? It's not a bad idea.
Yeah, true. I mean, I think it is very, very unlikely, but I would still just love it so much that I'm holding on to a little bit of hope. But yeah, it was a very good point. I mean, I think he's definitely a centre back by trade, but he played a right back for us for a while, and he played there for a few clubs since as well. It would certainly help Jaden Richardson. I think not only the defensive aspect, but some of the experience that Michael Hector has as well. Just in general would help a lot of the squad, but I feel like I just don't want to talk about it anymore, because
You'll get your
just going to
hopes
get my
up.
hopes up and up and up and up. I know it's not going to happen. It's absolutely not going to happen. But a boy can dream.
Boy can dream. You imagine if the club tweeted something that linked to Michael Hector, you're going to lose your mind.
Oh yeah, definitely.
John McDonald saying we're doing great considering the amount of new guys in there in the starting 11. We have our moments, Motherwell, I'm sure you mean John, but it will only get better. And I guess, to be honest, that's a really good way of looking at it. We have done well this season, although I know a few people like to say most of our best performance have come against 10 men this season. So let's see if we can put in a good performance on Saturday against 11 men. But yeah, I mean, look where we're sitting in the league, sitting fourth, got a good platform, hopefully a good opportunity to get 3 points on Saturday ahead of that Rangers game. And like I said, sitting in a cup quarter final, already better than what we did last season in that respective competition. So I think what John says there is a good point, considering the turnover in players that we have had this summer. We have started the season in a good way.
Yeah, absolutely, and hopefully long may it continue. The more the players still gel. I mean, still a lot of new faces. I know it's we're well into the season now. However, it still does take a lot of time for these things to come together. So hopefully we can keep improving. The more some of the young players get more experience as well, too. So hopefully we can go on to bigger and better things this season. I think there is still some things that need to work on, but of course there always is. There's always room for improvement. So I think we are in a good spot. Fourth and a quarter final with a home draw against a side from the division below. We're in a decent spot right now.
Right now, exactly, and hopefully we're still in a decent spot when we catch up on Monday to record next week's episode. Obviously, catching up on any of the transfer goings on that happen between now and midnight when the transfer window closes, any rumours or signings, outgoings that may happen inevitably once this live comes to a conclusion in the next couple of minutes, Calum. But yeah, just hopefully we are in that positive place and continue to build over the next few weeks, because there is something I think good happening at the club. We just need to see that little bit of consistency. But I suppose going back to the point John makes, with the amount of new guys, it will take that little bit of time as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And talking of building, don't forget to subscribe if you're tuning into the live show, whether you're watching it back, and follow us if you're listening in to the audio version after. Follow us on Twitter at RTG_podcast, on Instagram at RTG.podcast, and our personal Twitters as well. There's loads of nonsense going on there all the time. Get involved.
Exactly. Yeah, loads and loads of nonsense. But really do appreciate all of you taking the time to join us on deadline day. I'm sure it's been a good hour of most of your time to stop scrolling on your phones, checking all the rumours. It's been a bit of a nice distraction for us. For those of you that have joined in from the States, from Australia, for wherever you've tuned in, we do really appreciate the support you show to the show. To tune in and contribute in the comments, interact and sharing the show wherever you're from. Thank you very much. Calum, I'll leave you with your usual outro because I know you think it brings us luck ahead of the weekend's game. Until next week though, everybody, thank you very much for tuning in.
God, I'm so deluded. Go on,